we're on the air. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Golden Rain Foundation of Laguna Woods, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation. This Tuesday, February 7th, 9:30, Laguna Woods in the boardroom. We now call this meeting to order, and we have a quorum, okay? And so the next item is the Pledge of Allegiance by Director Skill.
Please join me in pledging our allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we acknowledge the media. And the next item of business is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Are there any objections? So if there are no objections, the agenda is approved. So the next item is the approval of the minutes of January 3rd, 2023, GRF Board Regular Open Meeting. Are there any changes? Always look to Joan because she writes the minutes. Thank you. Okay, are there any objections? So if there are no objections, the minutes are approved of January 3rd, 2023. So the next item would be the approval of the minutes for January 19th, 2023, GRF Board Agenda Prep Meeting. Are there any changes? There are no changes and no objections. So the minutes of January 19th, 2023 are approved. So the next item is report of the chair, and I have no comments today, except for everybody have a good day, okay? All right, next item is report of CEO report, Siobhan Foster.
President Carpenter, honorable members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to share a few updates this morning. The first item I want to share, and I'm going to draw your attention to the screen before you, is the 2024 GRF budget calendar. I just want to mention key milestones, and if you haven't already, everyone will get a complete schedule for the budget moving forward. But in terms of GRF, the departmental workshops will be held on March 20th and 22nd at 9:30 a.m. Capital review will take place on May 23rd at 1:30 p.m. Operating department reviews will take place on Monday, June 5th. And there's a second date, if necessary, for capital or operating review, and that is Monday, June 19th at 9:30 a.m. The business plan review will initiate on July 10th at 1:30 p.m. The televised business plan review will be held on August 7th at 9:30 a.m., followed by the business plan adoption, tentatively slated for the regular board meeting on September 5th. Thank you. I also want to provide an update on the VMS strategic plan update. On January 25th, the VMS board, VMS management staff, and board members from GRF 3rd and United met to update the VMS strategic plan. The process included a SWOT analysis to identify internal strengths and weaknesses, external threats and opportunities. There was review and refinement of the mission and value statements, affirmation of 3-year goals, and establishment of new 6-month strategic objectives to support those goals. Very briefly, the refined mission statement reads, VMS's mission is to ensure that Laguna Woods Village residents receive unparalleled services to enjoy the utmost in active living. The refined vision statement reads, to serve Laguna Woods Village beyond expectation. The 3-year goals, not in priority order, are to attract, develop, and retain high-quality staff, working with the boards, maintain fiscal stability and the longevity of the village, provide excellent customer service, and facilitate operational excellence and sustainability. For a sampling of 6-month strategic objectives, I've selected 2 to share with the board and the audience this morning. Under attract, develop, and retain high-quality staff, an objective is, by May 1st, to expand the use of the Integrated Resources Institute program within the village by providing employment opportunities to disabled workers at no cost to the village. Under Facilitate Operational Excellence and Sustainability, one of the objectives is, by May 1st, to complete a top-down review of staffing levels to streamline operations and reflect those results in the proposed 2024 budgets. Lastly, this morning I wanted to draw your attention to what we call the Art Affair in the Village. Please join me in thanking the Laguna Woods Art Association for the newly installed 2023 art exhibit. In this much anticipated show, Art Association members share the fruits of their talents, passions, and joys with the community. There are more than 150 pieces of artwork displayed along the first and third floor hallways and alcoves of the community center. A placard accompanies each artwork featuring the artist's name and contact number, as well as the artwork title, medium, dimensions, and price. An exhibition flyer featuring additional details about the show is available at the community center concierge desk. And this year, for the first time, residents are encouraged to vote for their favorite piece. During the month of February, residents may pick up a ballot from the concierge desk and vote for their favorite artwork. Write down the number of your favorite piece of art on the ballot and drop it in the ballot box at the concierge desk. The winner will be announced in the What's Up in the Village on Friday, March 3rd, and during the Laguna Woods Art Association's member reception. And again, please join me in thanking our artists for making our community center so beautiful. And that concludes my update this morning.
Okay, thank you. So the next item on the agenda is the open forum. We have 3 minutes per speaker. At this time, members only may address the Board of Directors regarding items not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of this Board of Directors. The Board reserves the right to limit the total amount of time allotted for the open forum to 30 minutes. A member may speak only once during the forum. Speakers may not give their time to other people. No audio, no video recording by attendees, and no rude or threatening comments. Members can attend the meeting by joining the Zoom link. The number is 981-312-57242 or call 1-669-900-6833 or email meeting@vmsinc.org. Thank you. So how many speakers do we have today? You need to get a card up there.
About 12 speakers.
12 speakers?
Yes.
If we have 12 speakers, I'm sorry, we have to limit it to 2 minutes each.
Certainly, not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
First speaker we have is Chris Collins.
We're going to limit it to 2.
Good morning. I'm Chris Collins, 3306Q. I'm here with an update on the work of the foundation, which is on behalf of village residents experiencing temporary financial problems. This is a reflection message of concern from our president of the foundation, and this comes from when she goes out and visits clubs and speaks. There are so many people in the village who are still unaware of the many kinds of services that are available if they encounter hard times. And hard times seem to be around here with inflation impacting older adults who have more limited and often fixed incomes. As a result, it's our continuing resolution this year to make residents aware of the help available right here in the village from the foundation. So with the help of the social services, a resident can access a range of help that they can get through a difficult period. Key among the help available is temporary financial assistance that can pay for caregiver services, an unexpected prescription not covered by insurance, a high electric bill, dental services, or medical care, or hearing aid repair. There are also some other additional ways that the foundation can help those who qualify financially, with earthquake disaster kits or a care ambulance contract might be arranged, or an emergency response device. And this device can be rented for residents who are prone to falling and are financially challenged. For those who live alone, an emergency response device can save the life of someone who falls. So if you're interested in having us come and speak about what the foundation does to your particular club or group, please contact us at 949-268-2246 or the foundation at comline.com.
Thank you. I know you hurried that, and I appreciate it.
Next speaker is Lori Donahue.
Morning. Lori Donahue, 578Q. I am here to address the homeless problem that we're having here in the village. There have been a number of articles written in the Globe regarding this, incidents at the community center, incidences in our laundry rooms, incidents of actual people being here in the village with weapons. You know, our village is touted for its safety, but this is definitely not advantageous to the residents who live there and their safety. I'd like to know what is being done. I know Ms. Skillman and Mr. Tibbetts are on the Security and Community Access Committee, so I would really appreciate knowing what is being done and what is being discussed to kind of alleviate this problem, because we also have breaches in our fencing, and I don't know gates that are not manned 24 hours. I know we have our arms, but do we have gates that can actually close in those vicinities also? So we seem to be vulnerable here in our village, and with the age of our residents and the activities, we have a lot of residents who like to walk at night. And to me, this seems to be a problem that, if it's not addressed seriously, can continue to pose a problem in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Bill Barnett.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I have some concerns and questions about how the money that United Mutual hands over to Golden Rain Foundation, at least that's my understanding of it, they make a decision on how the money that they choose to invest gets invested. And it seems to be invested fairly poorly. Matter of fact, my understanding is we lost almost $2 million from our decision to invest it in mutual funds rather than go with a sure thing with treasury bonds. And I'd like an explanation as to why it wasn't invested more diversely. Why did all of it have to go into one thing that was foreseeably a bad investment? That's pretty much all I have. I'd appreciate some answers on that. I think a lot of other people would too. Thank you.
Next speaker is Harold Medens.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Harold Medense, 421B. While watching GRF financial meeting, I was watching the reserves continue to drop in 2022, and I have heard that the foundation, though GRF has invested and not included in the GRF investment policy, nor allowed by Civil Code to have any inverse relationship with interest rates and interest keeping during 2022. In one of the recent meetings, HVU Advisor Dan Quirk said that whether or not GRF sells this bond fund, the loss of $1.8 million, not 2 cents, $1.8 million represents a real loss. And these funds are not coming back anytime soon, as long as interest rates continue upward trajectory. As you as board members, as well as residents of HVU presentation, and also have professional finance advisors that present an investment ad hoc committee in United, they all agreed that bond fund had a reverse relationship with the inflation rate. And also, all we agree that GRF investment loss is real and not in paper. Therefore, as GRF has a fiduciary duty to its members, please today make a motion, second it, pass it to sell the bond funds and purchase U.S.-backed treasury bills that are paying nearly 4.5%. And GRF will recover for our members, not for you, for our members, they're estimated $1.8 million in 2.5 years. So please consider it. Thank you.
Next speaker is Michael Dollock.
Hello, I'm Michael Dalek, a CPA in California and a resident. My remarks will relate primarily to a multi-page handout that you may have or should have, and the first page of it. I urge you to always be aware of the impact of even a modest inflation rate on your plans to accumulate reserves for future costs. For the 13-year period, January 2009 to January 2022, what cost $1 in January 2009 increased to a cost of $1.30 in January 22 as a result of a modest 2% average annual inflation, which occurred over that 13-year period. And by January 23, here last month, the cost had further increased to $1.38 because of the headline inflation last year. However, you can overcome inflation, make a good return on your savings and reserves investing, and never lose money in the U.S. by investing in U.S. Treasury inflation-protected securities called TIPS. This is the only bond type where the guaranteed maturity value increases with inflation. And you can usually buy TIPS right after they're issued. They're issued a couple times a year at their minimum guaranteed maturity of $1,000 or less. That's all I have time for, and I'm here if there's any questions. Anybody's looked at my handouts.
We can't take questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next person we have is Lenny Ross.
Good morning. My name's Lenny Ross. I'm president of United Mutual Corporation. GRF and United have had following 4 facts in common. Number 1, same investment policy that safety is the number 1 investment criteria. Number 2, same investments, bond funds, which are not included in investment policy and not allowed by civil code. Number 3, since January 2022, due to rising interest rates, GRF has lost $1.8 million, United lost $1.5 million. We both share the same investment advisor, SageView. In November 2022, United, after hearing from professional investment advisors, passed resolutions selling bond funds, purchasing U.S.-backed Treasury bills, paying over 4%, initiating our 2.5-year recovery plan. Our request to GRF directors: exercise your fiduciary duty. GRF reserves belong to all of us. Propose a motion, discuss it, pass it. Pass your $1.8 million, 2.5-year recovery plan to sell bond funds and purchase U.S.-backed Treasury bills today. We have two resident advisors who are going to speak to this subject, who spoke to our group, Michael Dalek and Allison Bach, who's now a member of United, and to the GRF. As trustees, we're counting on all of you to do your fiduciary duty and start your recovery plan today. Thank you.
Next one.
Next speaker is Allison Bach.
Allison Bach, 747A, everything he said, and the man before him and people before. And I'd like to add, excuse me.
I want you to finish, but please understand, this is a GRF meeting, board meeting. It's not a finance meeting. And all of these questions should be going before our finance committee. They've already been addressed. Everything has been addressed. There have been education in regards to why GRF is following our investment policy. And the choice, and this is the third or fourth time you brought it up, that the United has brought it up before our board. And we've thoroughly studied it and decided that it was best for GRF to stay with our own investment policy. So this sort of pushes my buttons a little bit, okay? Because we are a very responsible board, okay? And we are exercising our fiduciary duty. And when you're finished, I'll have Jim speak to it too. But please understand, this belongs in our finance. Thank you.
May I speak?
Huh?
I will address it if, with your
Okay.
permission, it'll take about 15 minutes. I will address it later than 15 minutes.
At the end, okay. Thank you.
President
So go
Carpenter,
ahead, please.
may I? All
Yes,
right.
please continue.
When the United Ad Hoc Committee analyzed our situation with losses in reserves with the help of in-house and outside professional experts, we found two issues: loss of principal of about $1.4 million and a monthly reinvestment plan in the same sinking bond mutual funds, wherein we advised that the loss was a tangible real loss and that the monthly reinvestment was making things worse. A recovery plan was developed that you've heard about, that we would invest in a ladder of U.S. Treasury obligations. We'd revise the investment policy. We'd select an outside professional investment advisor, and we'd strengthen reporting and review of account performances. Losses occurred due to the repricing of bond mutual funds in the face of rapidly rising interest rates, a tactic that the Fed uses to control inflation. When your Treasury bill jumped from 1.5% in January of 20 to 4.8% as it currently is now. So why not stay in bond funds as you are doing and wait for the market to swing back? Fed Chairman General Jerome Powell has stated that the Fed will continue its current interest rate policy until U.S. inflation rate returns to 2%. When's that? Inflation goes back to 2%. You tell me, you seem to know. When will that occur? And historically, U.S. interest rate cycles last 22 to 27 years, and that's over a 200-year period of tracking that data. GRF losses in your reserves are real, and they amount to 49.6% of GRF reserves. We request that you stop the runoff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Bill Walsh.
All the look here. I'm not going to talk about more of the same.
Oh, good.
I could talk to you about my hip replacement, but I won't do that.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm here because I'm part of a group of people who are planning, excuse me, Earth Day programs. And that's going to occur, the Earth Day is going to be celebrated here in Laguna Woods on Thursday, the 20th of April in the afternoon. And I'm here to invite you, Bunny, as a president, and we're going to invite the rest of the presidents of all the boards to come and spend some time at the Earth Day celebration to talk to residents about the board's vision, the various boards' visions for greening, continuing to green, and reduce the carbon footprint in Laguna Woods Village. And we would love to have, if you can't make it, at least a board member who could come and talk about what the board is looking at down the road, maybe 4, 5, 10 years. We know in GRF that you're going to be replacing the fleet with probably electric vehicles. You're probably going to have to deal with building some kind of electrical charging infrastructure up at the maintenance yard or wherever you choose to do that. There's other issues, and I know you know all about them. But the point is that we think that the village, and Siobhan talked about this, the sustainability of this village is going to be related to being able to deal with climate change, and we're seeing it all around us. And we all know what happened with our insurance premiums over property tax. And over property insurance premiums. I consider that a climate change tax. It's a direct result of the massive wildfires we've had in the state. So I would love to hear what the boards have to say. I think our group would love to hear what the boards are planning to do for the future of this community and reducing the carbon footprint. Thank you.
So when is this meeting?
This is going to be on April 20th. It's
Okay.
a Thursday in the afternoon, probably from about 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. We are gathering environmental speakers from all over the county and San Diego and Los Angeles come and speak. So we would love to just have some presence from the boards.
And where will it be held?
Clubhouse 1,
Clubhouse 1, okay.
okay?
Okay,
And
thank
I've
you.
already given Lenny a letter that I was going to send out through email, and gave VMS staff one for you, Bunny, and you can
Okay.
look at it.
Okay.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, all right.
Next speaker is Joe Fitzcomb.
Who is that masked man? Good morning, everybody. Welcome to all our board members and all our residents. I'm here to try to help you avoid a mistake that could damage our community's credibility. A judge recently found GRF and VMS liable for breach of fiduciary duty to follow public policy. The judge also found VMS and GRF liable of bad faith actions in the implementation of a reservation system. The judge also found GRF and VMS liable of breach of fiduciary duty in enforcing its own policies. The judge also found GRF and VMS liable of denial of access of usage data. The judge also found VMS and GRF liable of bad faith denial of requested usage data. One example of contact I've seen over many other occasions with VMS and GRF is when my tennis board and I, some of us, met with leadership of GRF and VMS. In one meeting, we were lied to about a community survey that said the tennis reservation system had a 50-50 result. In fact, there was a 24% difference. In attendance were two top people from VMS Recreation, the president of GRF, the committee chair of the CAC, and one other along with three of my board members. Not one member of GRF or VMS spoke up and told the truth or corrected the error. Someone had to know those numbers. Those numbers leaked all the way through VMS to the tennis courts and those members itself. Now, in a later meeting, the one who gave us the inaccurate information in the first meeting denied in the second meeting that they said it, which means they actually didn't tell us the truth about not telling the truth. But even more disappointing is the deceit, because you have to be able to trust.
Time is
Your
up.
time is up.
I usually talk fast. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Elizabeth Romano.
Thank you for your time. I'm up here to speak about the harassment policy and retaliation policy that was initiated. I was harassed and retaliated against. I sent in your documentation so that we can follow through and get some resolution. I've never heard back from you. The other issue is that I think that we're going to have to go to court because it's like let me try to put this together for you quickly. There's elder abuse and there's continued violation of rights regarding the inability for us to be able to utilize the, what do you call it? I'm sorry, I have a brain tumor and this is hard for me. To be able to utilize the most used facility that we had that was the drop-in lounge, okay? And the people there, we have the second highest suicide rate, and we need to do something about it. It is illegal to retaliate against disabled people, and you're doing that. And I've spoken to so many attorneys, it's disgusting, and I've been hoping that you would show up and do better. And I want to address the person who sent me that letter. I have been asking the board person for months and months and months, telling them if they didn't respond to the letter that I had, that I was given, that they were all going to be included in elder abuse. So all the people that signed that form that told me that I had to pay $500 a piece to talk to you are going to be liable for elder abuse. Okay, that goes along with it. So she didn't tell you at that time that you were giving away those rights. A lien is going to be put on your property. That's what we told her, month after month after month, and it makes no difference. So I'm tired of not getting a response. The people are tired. We're tired of being isolated, and thank you for this. All right.
Next speaker is Dennis Boudreau.
Good morning. I'm here to talk about Gate 12, and I realize this is on the agenda for a future committee meeting. However, it needs to be dealt with now. If any of you have been up there recently, you will see the cars and the golf carts that are being stranded on Moulton Parkway while they're waiting for people to be cleared through that gate. It's only a matter of time before some catastrophic thing is going to happen up there. All of the vehicles, or most of the vehicles that go through that gate are properly credentialed with RFIDs and also stickers on golf carts. Why at that gate does everybody have to show an ID card? Also, that makes no sense, none whatsoever. And I'm just sharing this with you because I am really, really concerned. There have been golf carts stranded in the middle of Moulton Parkway when the light turned red because cars are waiting. So 4 cars get to the gate, and that's it. There's no more room. Solutions. 2 ambassadors would expedite things. Handheld RFID wand. They sell them. You can buy them on Amazon. Simple solutions that would expedite things. I'm concerned. I hope you are too.
Thank you. Next speaker is Carol Moore.
Good morning. First thing I wanted to say was thank you to each one of you for serving on this committee. I very much appreciate it, and so do your neighbors. And your volunteering is what makes this community what it is. Thank you so much. I wanted to ask to get your help to restore remember the Audubon identifications that were on the trees? Some years ago, we discontinued that program. And I think you could contact them again. I don't believe this is a cost issue. And the identification of the trees not only helps us understand what the names of the trees are, it's actually another way of us to use our brains and our minds to learn. And that's really critical in our community. The second one is, and I think I'm hoping maybe a grant is out there for this one, and that is there are a number of people in our community that are mobility challenged, and they don't get out very much. I know there's the bus, but riding in the bus is pretty close, and I brought this up before. I would like to see something offered. It would be, if you recall, Irvine Meadows used to have some vehicles that you could ride in up to the symphony, and those were open. And I'm thinking of something like that people who are not able to really drive a car themselves and getting around, even getting into a vehicle is a challenging situation, that we could have something like that for those people to get around the community. Right now, I don't know how many of you are aware, all the cactus are blooming. They're gorgeous. We're going to have some beautiful blooms. The Raffia Lape is going to be gorgeous this year, and it would be nice if we could share that with our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 2 letters emailed in to us from residents, so I'll go ahead and read those now. The first one is from Suzanne Frank, and she said, "Good morning. I am here today because I believe it's important for the residents of Laguna Woods to know that the GRF board has given permission to VMS to appeal a small claims case that GRF and VMS recently lost. The case involves information that was requested by a resident from the Recreation Department. This information regarding the tennis reservation system, previously known as courts, was denied by Recreation 5 times. GRF and VMS lost this case, and the plaintiff was awarded. I question why GRF is appealing, as this is, to me, fiscally irresponsible. I believe GRF is appealing to deter other residents from filing lawsuits. I seriously doubt this will deter any resident who believes they are in the right from filing any lawsuit against VMS or GRF. According to the Superior Court of Orange County, GRF and VMS violated the Davis-Sterling Act, as the resident had a right to access the information requested. GRF lost this case and should reconsider this appeal and stop wasting our money. And then the next letter is from Bill Fisher, and it's regarding the Garden Center operating rules. He stated on December 6th, my email to the GRF board about the Garden Center operating rules was read. Director Horton clearly missed the point of the email. Allison got it. Allison said essentially that staff has to ignore the rules that don't work or enforce them as if they were properly written. Yvonne indicated that she does not know what else she can do except elevate the rules to the GRF and get them passed. Listen to the video. How did we get to this point? We are all misled. The GRF and the CAC, including their leadership, were told by the previous recreation director that the resident gardeners' objections and error indications were folded into the rules. We gardeners were told that GRF and CAC leadership prohibited changes and corrections to the rules. We were all misled. Or did the GRF and or CAC chairs actually direct staff to not change those impossible rules? Hope not. We were all misled. You could have listened to the residents. So many objected. One non-resident misled us, resisted logic. Impossible rules, contradictory rules. And that is all from open forum speakers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, where do we start here? Okay, you would like to comment?
I'd like to invite Mr. Fisher and Mr. Fitzkim to come to the CAC meeting. We've went over these issues time and time again, but we'd be glad to address them again. So on March 8th, I think, is our next meeting, so please come.
Thank you. Okay, Juanita.
Carol, we all enjoy the trees. And the History Center has done a great job with tree walks. We have 3 of them. They're looking at another one. However, the signs from the Audubon Society were done when we had an Audubon club here in the village. That club is no longer there. And the Audubon Society outside with there is not interested in participating here in the village. So it's something on landscape that we look at. One of the problems we had was the Audubon Club was nailing to the trees the signs about them, and that killed our trees. That's not good. You don't do that. So as we go forward, we're looking at a more sustainable way of identifying the trees, because we agree we have a wonderful urban forest that we want everybody to enjoy.
I have a general comment.
Okay.
Okay, I want to address 2 things. One is Miss Romano left after she said her piece, which I don't know anything that she was talking about, so I just want to, she didn't state for us to even address anything, but I don't know what she's talking about. We don't charge to talk to residents. That's not true. The other thing is, I want to talk about lawsuits in general, because a lot of people come up to me and ask me about this all the time. We worked, and I was on the CAC back when that tennis thing all started. We worked and worked and worked with the tennis. There are 2 distinct factions in the tennis groups. They fight amongst each other. We did the best that we could. We even rearranged so that only 3 courts were reserved out of 10 courts. And then they take us to, apparently, this was the first I heard of this, the small claims thing, and wonder why we're doing this. You came up earlier and talked about fiduciary responsibility and finances. Guess what? Every time somebody like those tennis people do stuff like that, it costs a lot of money, and that money comes right out of your pocket. So the tennis people couldn't work it out amongst themselves. And we did what we could to follow what the rules were, and they didn't like it. And so anybody can sue anybody at any time for any reason. This is one of the things I say all the time. But the bottom line is that comes right out of your pocket. So, yes, if you feel so wronged that you've got to go and file a suit against us, that's your right. But just know that it costs every single person who pays an HOA due money. And that's all.
Thank you.
That irritates me. Bye.
I can tell. Okay, but the other thing in regards to the appeal, I don't think everybody has the facts, and it is in the hands of our GRF legal counsel. GRF was fined, by this court, and we are appealing it because it was way out of line. Our lawyer doesn't feel that the judge that awarded that fine basically had all the facts. So we are appealing it, and it is in the hands of our GRF counsel. Okay, go on.
I want to respond to Bill Bedreau. Gate 12 is a porous gate, as you know, and unfortunately, folks have been getting in and using our facilities who are not members and not guests. They simply come in and have been using pickleball and the 19 restaurant, and 19 restaurants' liquor license is in danger by serving people who are not residents or guests of residents. So we had to do something. And I agree that the traffic jam can be dangerous. In theory, the golf carts should use the right lane and just go straight in because they are golf carts. But if they're not doing it, do they get blocked right at the big gate? Is that the problem?
They have two lines there that says now require everybody to show an ID, including the golf carts.
That's not, okay, we're working on that. I believe that in theory, at least, the golf carts should be able to use the right lane and just, since they're here. So I just tell you, it's definitely in the works right now. It's what to do about it appropriately. Like you, I have to stop and show my ID and say whether or not the car behind me is a guest or not, that sort of thing. But that right now is the only solution we have to alleviate the problem.
Okay, I think Siobhan wanted to speak to that.
President Carpenter, as you know, this item will be discussed at the SCAC meeting on February 27th. That's the appropriate place to have this conversation. And also, I do have Eric Nunez, our security chief, available if you want him to address the issues brought up concerning trespassing, homeless, et cetera. So I'll leave that to you.
Yes.
And the
okay.
golf cart lane.
Thank you.
Good morning, President Carpenter and the board. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what we do with trespassers real quick. We actually went back and looked at the years 2021 and 22, and what we have already so far in 23. And we had a total of 87 people that were trespassing. About a third of them are kind of repeat offenders that are related. A lot of them are related to people that live here and are trying to get back to visit family when they're not supposed to be here. But the problem that we had with that initially was that we have to give an admonishment to tell them they are in violation of what was called 602, the California Penal Code of trespassing. The sheriff's department would get here and there was a miscommunication. They believed that they were supposed to give that admonishment and would not accept our citizen's arrest. Well, during my absence, our chief operating officer, Carlos Rojas, went ahead and met with Captain Alday of the Orange County Sheriff's Department and kind of discussed this issue. And I had a follow-up discussion with him about it. And so what they've done is are promising to kind of retrain their folks to let them know that when we make a citizen's arrest for somebody for trespassing, they are to accept that arrest as they would normally do with any other person making a citizen's arrest, which is going to benefit the village a great deal and expedite dealing with these folks a little bit better. In regards to the stuff that you've been seeing periodically in news, articles in the Globe, there was one that was just mentioned previously about a person that was a half, dressed man wielding a knife and threatening residents. Well, that wound up being not a trespasser. That wound up being actually a person, grandson to somebody that was invited over for Christmas Eve, got into a fight with another family member, had a mental illness situation, ran out of the house with a kitchen knife. The 5 deputies responded, and they got here within minutes and took him into custody. We got there within 2 minutes and witnessed the guy in the back of the car handcuffed. So nobody's was put in danger. The guy was not a homeless person running around our neighborhoods. And there have been a number of incidences like this that we have not responded to in the Globe, obviously, but that are inaccurate in their reporting. Sometimes even Nextdoor will put things that aren't accurate facts. The other question that came up, I believe, was the gates and wanting to know what gates. We have 7 gates that are 24-hour manned. The rest of the gates are closed down at different times, mostly at 11 p.m. And I know the question came up is, well, how many gates do we have that that are open 24 hours? Well, that's how many gates that are open out of the 15 or 16 that we have. There are 7 gates, and there's roughly, just so you have a kind of a understanding of even the traffic that goes through there, there's roughly about 7.5 to 8 million vehicles that travel through our gates during a 1-year period. So we have a lot of visitors, obviously, and a lot of guests that do this, but and I think that was it. Is there anything else? Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm sorry, it's still not officially day for me. I'm a little bit slow. But what I want to know about, now when I was recently at Gate 12, cars had to go and show their card, their ID card, but the golf cart lane was accessible by golf carts. Now, is that still true?
Yes.
And there was no ID required.
Yeah, I know that we're going to have a big discussion on this at our SAC meeting, but
we are, but Dennis is here.
Yeah, but initially we have been letting golf carts, obviously coming from across the street into there, and we're just allowing them to come in. Yes.
No, we're not going to have back and forth on this, please. We
Yeah.
have an SCAC meeting on February 27th.
Oh, I know.
Thank you. Okay, is there any other questions? Okay, thank you. All right. Do you have any? Okay.
Bunny, we also have Steve Hormuth, our Financial Services Director, here to briefly talk about the investment concern that was raised.
Thanks. And I was waiting for everyone else to complete, because I think this will take an extensive amount of time. I wasn't aware that Steve was going to be here to chat about it. In fact, I didn't expect it either, but I was actually preparing to educate our board in private session on some of this. So this is kind of pretty timely. So I'm going to let Steve speak first, and then I would like to address the gallery.
Well, thank you, Director Hopkins, and President Carpenter. Thank you for your comments earlier. You were exactly right. With regards to your investments, please note that the investments continue to go up and down, and we anticipate them doing so on a go-forward basis. We had Dan Quirk, your investment advisor, here within the past, I would say, 2 months, and gave you an education on the economy and how the investments anticipate going forward. We will continue to bring in, at the direction of the board, your advisor on a regular basis at no less than twice a year. But again, as frequently as you would like. I'm sure he'd be happy to present additional comments on the economy. And then I'll turn it back over to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jim.
Thank you, Steve. First, let me say that I do appreciate all of the comments. Some of the characterizations I think are incorrect, but I think the comments to a degree are right on. There's a disagreement, but I think what I'd like to do is since we did this at the finance meeting, and those who are here and speaking against what we are doing, most of you were at the finance meeting, but this meeting probably has broader coverage. So what I'd like to do is go back over, if I can take the liberty, go back over some of the highlights of that finance meeting and then show, I'll call it how we got here, and also a little chart on what mark-to-market is, because I think a lot of the issues are based on, quote, the loss. And so I want to make sure that everybody understands what mark-to-market really means and the history of mark-to-market. Of course, we've got a couple of CPAs in here. They should appreciate this too. So Paul, can you show the timeline first? No, not the other one. Again, I was preparing to educate the board, because what I was about to do was to propose a strategy. Okay, a strategy slightly different than, well, not slightly different than the strategy that we're in today. But I think it's important to understand how we got to this strategy today. And I noticed that it's mostly United that's here in protest of our strategy. And be honest with you, I'm not sure I disagree with a need to look at a different strategy. But I think timing is everything. So let's start off with how we got here. Can you make that a little bigger, if you can? Yeah, make it much larger, yeah. Okay. First, about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, all of the boards got together and agreed to invest in bond funds. A resolution was drafted, everyone agreed to it, and that's how we got there. At the time, the rate was going down, and so it made sense to invest in bond funds, which has a relatively slower reaction to bond changes, bond funds. By the way, our investments are in treasury bills, bond funds with treasury bills for the most part. So they are safe. They just fluctuate with this thing called mark-to-market. And we'll go through that in a minute. So all agreed at that time to engage with Sageview to invest in bond funds, and we rewrote the policy. At the time, the interest rates were going down. And so our return on investment, everybody loved it. And so throughout 2020, okay, GRF returns were 4.2%, while the funds rate was going down to 0.25. Everybody happy at that point. Okay. 2021, GRF return. All right, this is when it started to turn. And if in 2020 hindsight, we probably should have thought about amending that strategy at that point. And that's what we would have done had we had the vision of 2020 hindsight. So the rate was actually down to 0. And you bring it up to, yeah, okay. And then at that time, because United leadership at that time wanted a better return, they decided that, look, let's add equities to the portfolio. That would have been a violation of Davis Sterling. We rejected that. Again, that was United board at that time. But it took us about 3 months to push back on that. So again, next slide up, please, okay? And then in April of 2021, a resident alleged that our policy violated 5380. We basically rewrote the policy. It did not violate 5380, Civil Code 5380, which really had to do with the deposit of funds directly from the resident, not the funds that were under discretionary leadership of the GRF board. But in 2021, we clarified that and rewrote the policies as it is today to include two levels of investment. One is discretionary and the other is non-discretionary. And Steve, forgive me if I'm correct. The non-discretionary are the ones that we manage, right? Yeah. And the other discretionary are the ones that we allow for cash flow, we allow VMS to manage, and they're in temporary funds. I got it reversed, okay? I knew I had it reversed. But and so we currently have also in early 2021, we started to not reinvest our yield into the funds because we saw that reinvesting them in the funds were not yielding the same thing as the current rate for the Treasury bonds. So we stopped doing that and we started investing those temporarily into the Treasury bond funds. Now the yield is small because at that time, the interest rate was only 1.5%. And so we had 1.5% bonds, but the bond funds were actually yielding more than that. So move down a little bit, Paul, if you will, okay? And so in 2022, the interest rate started to increase faster than it ever had been in the history of this country. Never has it been this fast an interest rate increase. It caught a lot of folks by surprise, but it happened. There are literally trillions of dollars in bond funds at this moment. Literally trillions of dollars. And so at that point in 2022, and I guess in October, United decided to get out of the bond funds and sell their bond funds, all of it immediately, okay? Thereby taking an immediate realized loss. And I'm not sure what the number was. We decided to, the GRF decided to take a more measured look at how we exit, or if we exit. And I realize, and I'm not going to talk about United's strategy, but I do realize that United, because of past board actions, had some cash flow situations that they needed to have a little bit more liquidity than we need at the moment. So there was an urgency associated with what United, let's say, we're forced to do. So I've expressed that with the president and said that I'm not sure I would have done exactly the way he did it, but I understand his necessity to convert that to cash. And so the next thing that we started to do was to educate ourselves. And so my intention, and this is why I have this chart. Can you show the Excel sheet? I actually was going to show this, believe it or not, at our closed meeting to educate our board. So this is pretty timely. What this is, and by the way, what we are reacting to is something called mark-to-market. Now, what is mark-to-market? Let's just say, and here's a very simple example, because the bond funds that we have hundreds of bonds in them. So it's not bond. So this is a very simplistic example to show what happens. Fidelity, by the way, Fidelity and Vanguard are where we have our bond funds. Let's just say Fund A has 4 Treasury bonds in them, and they're old, okay? They're yielding 1% to 3%, and they're each $10,000 apiece. And they each have a different maturity rate because the way the bond funds work, you have some long-term, short-term, and then medium terms, right? And so here you have the maturity rate on the right side. Can you make that a little larger? Because I don't know if everybody can see that, yeah. As large as you possibly can. So I'm looking at my sheet here, okay. And so what you get is that whole bond fund, if held to maturity, would essentially yield about 1.4%, okay, or in this case, $1,424. Now, take a look at the new bonds, because the Treasury bonds now are paying a lot more money. The new bonds are coming in at 3%, 4%, and 5%. And by the way, this is a bond fund again. And so they have different maturity times, and so they're yielding a different amount of money, all right? And so as a result of that yield, okay, the current bond funds, the old bond funds are saying, hey, wait a minute, if someone needed to cash out right now, okay, who would they sell to? Well, I'll buy it, but you got to discount it. You have to discount it, otherwise I won't buy it. By the way, why are you selling? I need liquidity. Therefore, I'll give the discount because I need the liquidity more than I need. I don't have patience to wait out the maturity. So I need liquidity now. And so I sell. I sell right now. And I take a real loss, but I need it because of liquidity. That's what, and why did I sell? Because mark to market caused me to look at my value today, and that's an imputed value. And what that means is it's not real until I actually sell. And I know a lot of folks would disagree with that, but let me tell you a little bit about the history of mark to market. It was banned in 1938. FDR said it contributed too much. People didn't understand it. It contributed too much to the Depression. All right, cycle forward, 2007. It was brought back. It was brought back. Okay, the SEC and Accounting Standards Board said, okay, let's bring it back. It was immediately suspended for financial institutions carrying mortgage-backed securities. Why? Because it would have caused a run on the bank. What does that sound like? Sell, 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 liquidity, liquidity, liquidity. So what has happened here is everyone has looked at mark to market and said, hey, let's get out of this, because from an accounting perspective, there's a loss. However, no bond fund manager worth his salt is not going to hold those bonds to maturity, and so that they get a yield from that. When they finally hold that bond to security, they're going to buy the newer bonds. Therefore, the bond fund turns over and becomes equal to, or I wouldn't say equal to, but eventually is going to start to match the current rate. That's a slow process given the fact that you've got securities that you can now invest in at 3, 4, and 4.5 or 5%. So that's a slow process. And so what you have to look at that point is, and by the way, we've got 6 different bond funds. So what you have to look at is which one of those bond funds would benefit by an immediate sale and then investment into the bonds as opposed to bond funds, the newer bonds, okay? And so you look at that as a part of a strategy, not to dump. It's part of a strategy. And that's what we're engaged in right now, is understanding what's the right strategy to get away from bond funds, which, by the way, everybody wanted to get into 3 years ago. Everybody. And so when I hear these experts come up without the benefit of history, and it's an opinion, and I get it, and this is my opinion, but it's not that cut and dry. Nothing like this is that simple. And so if we were to jump out of it all of a sudden, take a huge loss, by the way, it's starting to fluctuate, which means as Steve pointed out, it's starting to fluctuate, as the bond funds start to adjust to the bond rates and the direction that it's going. In fact, I think we had something like a 1.5% increase in the month of November. So it's starting, those bond funds are starting to adjust to the interest rate direction. Now, can they adjust fast enough for us to get the yield that we want? Well, that's why we're looking at it fund by fund, as opposed to dumping the whole portfolio. We believe that's the smart way to do it. And there's an honest difference of opinion out there. But I think we need to start with the basis and the facts, as opposed to walking in with an opinion and then trying to justify that opinion throughout the entire process. I believe in the facts. The facts will lead you to the right decision. But you got to have the facts. You got to have the history. You got to have an understanding of it. And that's. I'll turn it over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Jim. And I felt that was a very thorough explanation. And I just want to invite the United People back to the Finance Committee if they have any additional questions in regards to GRF's investments. Okay, thank you.
But by the way, if I can just say, Madam Chair, I will just say that I am open to discussion on this. My email and phone are available. I don't have all the answers, but I believe that all of us have to start with the same basis of facts. We all want the best return. There's no question about that. All right? But I think the lobbying effort, if you will, I think is misplaced.
Thank you. And what I appreciate about Jim's presentation is GRF is always concerned with our fiduciary responsibility, and every dollar we spend is scrutinized. But I don't think everyone realizes that. So thank you. Do we have any more comments to the forum? No more comments. Well, we need to move on. So the next item is the consent calendar. All matters under the consent calendar are recommended for action by committees and will be enacted by the board by one motion. In the event an item is removed from the consent calendars by members of the board, such items shall be the subject of further discussion and action by the board. Recommendation from Finance Committee: A, consistent with the statutory obligations or subcommittee of the board consisting of the treasurer and at least one other board member, reviewed and approved preliminary Golden Rain Foundation financials for the month of December 2022. By this vote, ratify that such review be confirmed in this month's board member open session meeting minutes. So, do we have a motion to move the consent calendar? Don't you?
You could just, are there any objections?
Okay, I don't need a motion. Huh? Okay, are there any objections? So there are no objections. The finances, number A is approved. Thank you. All right. So the next item is unfinished business, and that is to entertain a motion to approve the GRF credit card and transaction fee to be paid by the purchaser. So Joan, please read the resolution. Okay. Thank you.
Resolution 90-23-XX, GRF credit card and transaction fee for ActiveNet. Whereas on April 6, 2010, the board adopted Resolution 90-10-25, approving a Recreation Department software upgrade for event and GRF facilities reservations from Safari to ActiveNet, containing fee-based services. And whereas the Golden Rain Foundation currently absorbs all transaction and credit card fees for in-person purchases and transaction fees associated with ActiveNet. And whereas on December 27th, 2022, the Finance Committee approved the CAC recommendation of GRF credit card and transaction fees within ActiveNet be paid by the member for transactions online and in person. And now, therefore, be it resolved, February 7th, 2023, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts the proposed recommendation regarding the ActiveNet credit card and transaction fees incurred by GRF to be paid by the user. And resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized to carry out this resolution as written. I move we approve this resolution for credit card transaction fees for ActiveNet.
I'll second. Any objections? No objections?
I do have a question. A question.
Okay, discussion?
Yeah. Allison, I've looked over this and I can't really see, like, what's the average fee that they'll pay? Like a couple bucks?
Yeah, it's not very much.
Okay.
It's a percentage of the total amount.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? If there's no further discussion, are there any objections? So if there's no objections, the credit card transaction fee to be paid by the purchaser is approved. Thank you. So the next item is the update committee appointments, and before I have Joan read the resolution, we are going to dissolve the strategic planning, and Debbie would like to speak.
Yeah, I'll make it brief. So we had a strategic planning committee, and then it kind of dissolved, and then we reactivated it. And over the period of time that it was in play, it became very apparent that most of the work that was being done within strategic planning was already being done at the committee level. So basically, all that the strategic planning would have done is to make recommendations or advise when, CAC was already doing things that were long-term changes there and all that. So it's not that we're not focused on strategic planning or long-term planning, but we feel that we're effectively covering all of these things currently within our committee structure. And that's why we decided to dissolve it at this time. Thank you, Bunny.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to dissolve it, and then we have an addition to it, which would be under the website committee, and we would be adding Donna
Rain.
Yes, and I didn't get an answer from Lenny but we will be adding Donna.
And
Okay.
Pearl Lee.
United hasn't agreed to that yet. So we have to have that. I emailed him twice, yeah. Okay. So we're going to add Donna, and then we'll work with the other.
Okay.
So would there be any other changes to the committee? Okay.
I have a question for my landscape committee. According to this, we are adding a third person from third, and we should only have two. So my question is, Andy Ginocchio, is he replacing either Jules or Ira? Because we can't have three.
One of them should be an
One
an
could be
alternate.
Or an alternate, I don't know, I mean, it's not there. He's new to the board, so he may be replacing one of the other two, but I need to know.
Okay, landscape.
Lenny left.
Okay, so we have, okay. Jules, Ira, and Andy. Okay, so one of them, we need to touch base with Mark and see which one's going to be an alternate. So I almost think that the way it is right now, we should approve Andy since he's the new one as the alternate? Yeah, okay.
Well, I feel just the opposite, that as the new one, he has been put on committees and replacing somebody that is already on there because they wanted him on committees, not just alternates, but that is a
Right,
a
I
Mark
know, I
question.
just need to confirm it with
Yeah.
Mark, yeah. Okay, so I will confirm.
President Carpenter?
Yes?
Director Ginocchio is an alternate for third for landscape. I just confirmed it.
Alternate.
Who is the alternate?
Director Ginocchio.
Andrew Ginocchio.
Oh, okay, thank you.
We just double-checked their committee assignments.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much. Are there any other changes? If there are no other changes, Joan, please read the resolution.
Resolved February 7th, 2023, that the following persons are hereby appointed and ratified to serve on the committees of this corporation. As already stated, we are dissolving the Strategic Planning Committee, and under Finance, Andy Ginocchio is added for third, and Mark Laws becomes an alternate for third. Information Technology remains the same. Under Landscape, Andy Ginocchio is added for third as an alternate at this point. Maintenance and Construction remains the same. Clubhouse Renovation Ad Hoc Committee remains the same. Media and Communications remains the same. The Website Ad Hoc Committee added Donna Rain Shostak as third. Broadband Ad Hoc Committee remains the same. Mobility and Vehicles Committee remains the same. Security and Community Access remains the same. On the other committees, Disaster Preparedness makes Sue Stevens an alternate for Mutual 50. Laguna Woods Village Traffic Hearings remains the same. Purchasing Ad Hoc Committee remains the same. Select Audit Task Force the same. Compliance Ad Hoc Committee remains the same. Correspondent is Lucy Addington, and El Toro Water District reporter is Juanita Skillman. Resolved further that Resolution 90-23-04 adopted January 3rd, 2023 is hereby superseded and canceled. And resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution. I move we pass this resolution for the committees. And
Do you have a
Juanita
second?
seconds.
Okay, is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, is there any objections? If there are no objections, the updated committee appointments is approved. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is new business. And we need to reschedule and change the board meeting from July 4th to July 5th, 2023. So, do you want to read the resolution?
I'm going to read it. There are a couple of small corrections, and I'm just going to read the corrections as part of the resolution.
Okay.
So Resolution 90-23-XX. Reschedule Tuesday, July 4th, 2023, regular meeting. Whereas pursuant to Section 6.5.3 of the amended Golden Rain Foundation bylaws, regular meetings of the Board of Directors shall be held on the first Tuesday of each month at 9:30 a.m. unless otherwise scheduled by an adopted resolution. And whereas the July 2023 regular meeting of the Board of Directors of this corporation, scheduled for Tuesday, July 4th, 2023, conflicts with the Independence Day holiday. And now, therefore, be it resolved, February 7th, 2023, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby approves that the July regular meeting of the Board of Directors of this corporation shall be held on Wednesday, July 5th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. in the Laguna Woods Village Community Center Boardroom, 24351 El Toro Road. And resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution. I move that we approve this resolution to change from July 4th to July 5th. Second?
Any discussion?
Debbie seconds it. Okay, go
Debbie
ahead.
second, okay.
I'll second. I just have a question. Why didn't we just go to the following Tuesday?
Because you have United.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you. There are no objections?
Okay.
Then I'll read this over. The board meeting will be changed from July 4th to July 5th. It's approved. Thank you. So the next item is B, 12B, entertain a motion to approve donation of printing press and matte cutter for Clubhouse 4 art room. So do we have a resolution on that?
Yes, we do.
Resolution, oops.
Turn it on. Resolution 90-23-XXX, donation agreement between GRF and Art Association donation of printing press and mat cutter for Clubhouse 4 art room. This agreement entered into this 7th day of February 2023 is by and between the Golden Rain Foundation, GRF, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation, and the Art Association Club, donor, who donated a printing press and mat cutter for Clubhouse 4 art room. Whereas GRF and donor recognize the importance of community facilities and amenities, and whereas GRF and donor acknowledge the benefit of donations when they have a purpose consistent with GRF goals and are in the best interest of Laguna Woods Village, and whereas the donor has offered to donate a printing press and mat cutter for Clubhouse 4 art room, and whereas the Recreation and Special Events Department Director or Financial Services Director reviewed and affirms the proposed donation meets the criteria for acceptance contained in the GRF donation policy, provided that it, one, meets a true need of the facility does not interfere with the intended current or future use of the facility, and does not require the relocation of other equipment or infrastructure to accommodate the donation. Now therefore be it resolved, February 7th, 2023, that GRF and donor, in accordance with the described conditions and obligations, hereinafter set forth and agree as follows. Section 1. The donation, known as a printing press and mat cutter for use in the Clubhouse 4 art room, described below, is donated in its entirety to GRF, hereafter owned by GRF and managed on behalf of the residents of Laguna Woods Village by Village Management Services, Inc., BMS. Section 2, donation description. A printing press and a mat cutter for the use in the Clubhouse 4 art room. Space of the facility is Clubhouse 4. Location is Clubhouse 4 art room. Section 3, the amount of the donation. Installation cost is nothing. Maintenance cost total for both is $300. Total estimated donation is $300. Section 4, GRF reserves the right to move or remove and or retire the donation following cessation of a 5-year period. The term shall commence upon the date entered into and indicated above. Section 5, GRF will not replace the donation or community space improvement if it is stolen, vandalized, worn out, irreparably damaged, destroyed, or expires. Section 6, installation and maintenance. GRF shall be responsible for installation and maintenance of the item, including any reasonable repairs. Section 7, term. The term of this agreement is a minimum of 5 years or beyond, if applicable. And resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized to carry out this resolution as written. I move that we approve this resolution. Deb seconds. Thank you, Deb.
Is there any discussion? Okay, thank you. No discussion? Are there any objections? If there are no objections, the motion to approve donation of printing press and mat cutter for the Clubhouse 4 art room is approved. So the next item is to entertain a motion to approve donation of long arm quilting machine for Clubhouse 4 sewing classroom. Joan, please read the resolution.
Resolution 90-23-XXX. Donation agreement between GRF and Crazy Quilters Club. Donation of long arm quilting machine for Clubhouse 4 sewing classroom. This agreement entered into this 7th day of February 2023 is by and between the Golden Rain Foundation, GRF, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation, and Crazy Quilters Club, who donated a long arm quilting machine for Clubhouse 4 sewing classroom. The Quilters Club is the donor.
Okay.
Sorry. Whereas GRF and donor recognize the importance of community facilities and amenities, and whereas GRF and donor acknowledge the benefit of donations when they have a purpose consistent with GRF goals and are in the best interest of Laguna Woods Village, and whereas the donor has offered to donate a long arm quilting machine for Clubhouse 4 sewing classroom. And whereas the Recreation Special Events Department Director or Financial Services Director reviewed and affirms the proposed donation meets the criteria for acceptance contained in the GRF donation policy. I'm going to skip some of the boilerplate. So,
Okay.
and the next is therefore be it resolved February 7th, 2023, that GRF and donor, in accordance with the described conditions and obligations hereinafter set forth and agree as follows. Section 1, the donation known as a long arm quilting machine for Clubhouse 4 sewing classroom described below is donated in its entirety to GRF, hereafter owned by GRF and managed on behalf of the residents of Laguna Woods Village by Village Management Services, Inc. Section 2, donation description. It's a long arm quilting machine for Clubhouse 4 sewing classroom. Again, the space facility is Clubhouse 4. The location specifically is in the sewing room of Clubhouse 4. The amount, Section 3, the amount of the donation is maintenance costs only about $300 for the year. Section 4, 5, and 6, and 7 are all boilerplate for all donations, and I'm skipping that because it was the same as the previous resolution. Resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized to carry out this resolution as written. I move that we approve the resolution to accept the long arm sewing machine or quilting machines donation. Thank you. And Deb seconds.
And I do have one comment for people who don't understand that these resolutions, like these donations, that goes through CAC first.
Right.
So that people understand that we've already looked at all these costs and analyzed all this in a committee, and then it comes to us. Education.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Are there any objections? So if there are no objections, the motion has passed for the donation of the long arm quilting machine for Clubhouse 4 sewing classroom. So the next item is to entertain a motion to approve Art Association request for whale project mounting. So will you read the resolution? And you can skip the boilerplate.
That's I'll do that. I'm trying to just do the description of the donation. Resolution 90-23-XXX. Donation agreement between GRF and Art Association Club for whale project mounting. This agreement entered into the 7th day of February 2023 is between the Golden Rain Foundation, GRF, a California nonprofit benefit corporation, and the Art Association, which should be the donor, for whale project mounting. Whereas GRF and donor recognize the importance of community facilities and amenities, and so on. I'm going to skip all of that down to whereas the donor has offered it to donate a whale project for mounting in the Clubhouse 4 lounge. And whereas the Recreation Special Events Director or Financial Services Director has reviewed and affirms the proposed donation meets the criteria for acceptance of such donation, according to the donation policy. Now, therefore, be it resolved, February 7th, 2023, that GRF and donor, in accordance with the described conditions and obligations hereinafter set forth and agree as follows. Section 1, the donation known as a whale project for mounting in Clubhouse 4 Lounge, described below, is donated in its entirety to GRF, hereafter owned by GRF and managed on behalf of the residents of Laguna Woods Village by Village Management Services, Inc. Section 2, donation description. A whale project for mounting in Clubhouse 4 Lounge. The space of the facility is Clubhouse 4. The location is the Clubhouse 4 Lounge. And again, Section 3, the amount of the donation is the maintenance cost of an estimated $30. Section 4, 5, 6, and 7 are boilerplate. And finally, resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized to carry out this resolution as written. I move we approve this resolution. And Deb seconds. And I
Any
have,
discussion?
I have a question.
Questions? Yes, Juanita?
I just wanted to point out to everybody that this is the Wyland whale that was on display in our lobby of the community center for a number of months. It's beautiful, it's worth a lot, and I'm glad we're keeping it and making it a part of our art association.
Right.
Thank you. And Joe?
I want to know where the lounge is in Clubhouse 4. Please, yes.
Okay. I know that one.
Okay.
You know where the
Yvonne?
old
Okay.
office was for Saddleback? It's on the back side of that.
Okay.
Okay?
By the art.
That's new
Yeah.
to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Are there any objections? Hearing none. So the motion to approve Art Association request for a whale project mounting is approved. So the next item is up to the board. Yes, they want to take a 5-minute break.
Be like you want.
Okay. Thank you. Me too. and Director Hopkins will provide the report for the Finance Committee.
Me again? Okay. You put up the charge, sir? Oh, it isn't Kayla or Paul? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Whew. I'm back on. Okay. The first chart, again, and just we show all of our revenue, which, again, they include revenues and expenses which are designated for reserves, and they're not part of the operating. It also includes investment income, the transfer facility fees, and the GRF reserve portion of the HOA fees. It also includes contingency portion of our HOA fees. So what this one shows that for our actual bottom line, we have a net surplus of $3.3 million. That's not a real surplus from an operating perspective, and our HOA fees are based on our operating fund. Obviously, when I talked about the investment income and the reserve income and the contingency income, that goes to special funds, non-operating, and does not contribute to our operating fund surplus or deficit. Next chart, please. This chart shows the operating fund, and this operating fund shows a surplus of $382,000, excuse me. We had budgeted a loss. We'll say, well, why would you budget a loss or a net loss? It's because what we did was we applied a credit from the prior year to our budget. And so the budget reflects the spending, the actual spending, less a bottom line credit. The bottom line credit was $1.2 million, and so we actually budgeted for a zero or close to a zero surplus or zero balance, and we had a balance instead of 382, which is good. Next chart, please. Now, we had a lot of discussion earlier on our portfolio and our reserves. And this next chart reflects the current market value of the GRF Reserves discretionary investment portfolio. It also includes the original market value at the time of inception. The current market value of the GRF portfolio is $18,209,000. That's compared to a value of $19,031,000 at inception. The year-to-date market value decreased by $1,321,000, or 6.8%, and $822,000, or 4.3%, since inception. So that's 4.3% since inception. By the way, in December, our market value decreased by $1,000. And just a reminder, in November, the market value actually increased by $344,000. So as we talked about earlier in the portfolio discussion, it's starting to fluctuate, which is a sign that the bond funds are starting to adjust to the direction of the interest rate increases. Slide 4, please. This of the $18.2 million portfolio mentioned in slide 3, $15,627,000 is our reserve portfolio value. In addition to discretionary investments, the reserve fund assets also include cash of $3,135,000. The non-discretionary investments of $12,636,000. Payables and others amount to $93,000. So our reserve balance again is adjusted reserve balance is $31.3 million. Next slide, please. Now let's take a look at the operating fund, which actually has the more significant impact on our HOA assessments. This slide shows that most of our significant operating variances are green bars, and they are favorable, and the orange bars represent unfavorable items. So as been happening all year long, our favorable variance, a large part, is due to our compensation and related expense. Again, due to vacancies and general services for paving, janitorial positions, maintenance and construction, security services, landscapes, and basically across the BMS service departments. And as we've said all along, recruitment is constantly in process. It's a relatively tough labor market, and so we've actually had some recent successes, I believe, Siobhan, in making some significant hires. The second is legal fees. Thanks to the board's actions and the actions of our presidents, we've really mitigated a lot of the legal fees, and that was a purposeful direction based on what we actually submit to our attorneys for consideration. The next is our golf green fees. The golf green fees have gone up. Not the fees themselves have not gone up, but the participation has gone up, and as a result, we have had significant. Look, I lost my sheet here. Oops. I lost my cheat sheet. Sorry. There we go. Yeah, the green fees are due to higher use of the 27-hole golf course. Outside services are higher by $150,000 due to the late start in the evening and janitorial services. This is actually through December, and so it looks like that positive variance is going to stay with us, or has stayed with us the entire year, and so it ends up being because of the janitorial services. Again, some of the closing of the clubhouses or delayed reopening of the clubhouses allowed us to save a couple of dollars there. Now, on the unfavorable variances, broadband services are $542,000 under the budget, and that's due to high-speed internet revenue sharing, lower high-speed internet revenue sharing than budgeted. Again, that was due primarily to the delay in the contract signing with West Coast Internet. We had expected to sign it sooner, gaining more revenue. That was delayed, so this past year, I should say, we did not get the benefit that we had expected. And then also another is the utilities, telephone expense. Water, gas, and electricity are all higher than budgeted, and I think we all are experiencing that reality ourselves. Okay, next chart, please. Again, this chart shows the non-assessment operating revenue. The total is $9,761,000. Again, the mix is broadband at 54%, golf revenue at 22%, clubhouse rentals. That doesn't change. That has not changed from time to time. And again, these revenues help to support our amenities when we charge directly for the services. By the way, we never recover 100% of these services, so it's not like we're charging folks. Just to make sure. I have to say these things because I have to remember there are new residents all the time, and there are new board members all the time. So some of this, for me, is sounding repetitive, and at the same time, it's necessary to make sure that everybody's on board with what we're doing. Next chart, please. This chart shows our operating expenses, GRF, which is $39,258,000. $1,000. And again, the largest, as you would expect, is the employee compensation, which is about 59%, more than 59%, and cable programming, which is 11%, and then again, utilities is 9%. So it's a big, it's a relatively large number. Of the $39 million, excluding depreciation, the two categories, that is employee compensation and cable programming, account for 70% of the total operating. Utilities and fuel and professional fees account for the remaining 30%. If you consider that cable and programming are offset by broadband revenue, compensation accounts for 66% of the net expense, while utilities, insurance, and outside services account for 34% of the net operating. Slide 8, please. Starting with the first column on the left, the reserve funds have a combined ending balance of $35.1 million. The restricted fund balances have an ending balance of $4 million. Included in this total are contributions received this year through assessments, trust facilities fees, and investment earnings. The second column shows the work in process of $3.8 million for the reserve and $102,000 for restricted. And these reflect the amounts paid for projects not yet completed. The third column represents the resulting adjusted fund balances of $31.3 million. Slide 9, please. Okay. This slide shows our resale history from 2020 to 2022. The community-wide sales total 890 through December 31st. Most of these transactions, by the way, that compares to 1,053 last year. And if you look at the trend compared to last year, you can see that most of that loss has come in the last 4 months of this year, which is an indication of the higher interest rates and some other things that are going on in our economy. The resales contribute greatly to our reserve fund in terms of the trust facility fee. So this will have an impact on as we move forward. This can have an impact on our reserve fund, no question about it. If it continues, if the trend continues. Slide 10, please. This slide shows a listing of where the reserve money is committed. Of the $15.5 million appropriated by the board for various projects and equipment purchases, the remaining encumbrances against our reserves is $9.1 million. And that's primarily for renovation projects. Restricted funds have a total of $148,000 and remaining encumbrances of $39,000. And that's for moving the buses. Or the bus benches, I'm sorry. And the last slide, please. Okay. Here we show our adjusted fund balances historically for the last 5 years. And it shows that GRF has averaged over $25 million in reserve funds and $1.6 million in contingency. And you can see over the years it's continued to grow, but that's also anticipation of several larger projects that have to be considered to keep the community fresh and up to date. As you recall, GRF is a little bit different than the mutuals because the mutuals invest their reserves, generally speaking, on an ongoing basis to keep their homes up to date, whereas GRF has larger projects that don't happen every year, but they come up and we have to have a reserve for them. I would suggest that anybody that has the opportunity to read the article in The Breeze on reserves, it was written by me. And it took considerable amount of time and effort to put it together, so to give everybody a clear understanding of how reserves work within GRF. It's a little different than in the mutuals. Thank you.
Okay. So you finished all your report?
ITAC?
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, all right, go ahead.
Okay. I'll do ITAC now. We're moving along quite well, actually, and thanks to our vendor, and also thanks to the staff at VMS. They've had over 80 meetings in this project, and by the way, this is just phase one of this initial phase. And this initial phase includes organization management, general ledger, banking, accounts payable, accounts receivable, the property management, budgeting, project management accounting, product and inventory management, warehouse inventory. These are all the things being considered and managed. Procurement is part of this, human resources and sales and service. This is all part of the initial phase. It has required that with the staff, we go through each and every single process that we have related to these items and look at what we've been doing historically and see how it matches up with what we can do and do it better. And that's why it's taken 80 meetings and counting to get the staff's input as to what their goals are in terms of what they do. And keep in mind that many of our processes are legacy processes, which means they've been around so long that nobody knows where they came from in some cases. But with that said, this is a 30 to 36 month process. We're about, I guess, a little less than a year into it, and it's going well. That's my report.
Okay, thank you. So the next report, Debbie, on the strategic planning?
Right, so I'm going to give a final report, and I want to reiterate that dissolving strategic planning as a committee does not mean that we don't still have long-range plans and goals. And I'm going to reference our last meeting in October and some of the things that were listed there. So the first thing is that the technology modernization, which Jim just talked about, is handled by the ITAC, and you just heard his report. The website redevelopment is being handled by the website ad hoc. The clubhouse renovations, and that's Clubhouse Renovation Committee. The broadband and what the future of broadband is being handled by the Broadband Ad Hoc Committee. There are discussions regarding the space planning and the Building E, which is ongoing. On radar is still, we're not abandoning that there may be EV things in the future. It just wasn't the right time for what was available, but we have a very capable staff member, Bart Mejia, who's constantly focused on energy and EV solutions. And then, as you heard earlier, the issue with Gate 12, and that this CAC is working on that as well. So while there isn't a specific committee any longer, that does not mean that all these other things just weren't part. Those were all part of what we discussed. So they will be discussed at the committee level. If residents have suggestions for things down the road, all they simply need is to, they can contact the general manager's office. They'll tell them which committee handles that request, and they're welcome to come and speak in member comments. So again, I just want to reiterate, the dissolving of this committee doesn't mean that we don't have long-range plans. Thank you.
Well, to add what Debbie says, everyone has access to the Green Book, and the Green Book shows how our reserves goes out, I don't know how many years, at least 5 to 10, and it shows how maintenance and clubhouse repair replacement is all handled over a period of time. So next one is CAC, Director Horton.
Well,
all the things that we approved during this meeting is what we handled at our last CAC meeting. And I have nothing to report on a future meeting. This month, we don't have anything to discuss, so we're skipping it, and our next meeting will be March 9th. However, I have something near and dear to my heart that I want to mention, and that is our volunteers. It's come to my attention that people that are taking advantage of all the wonderful recreation facilities that we have here are not being respectful to the volunteers. And I want everybody to understand, if we don't have those volunteers, this community just doesn't operate. And so I'm asking everybody to when a volunteer that's working in, whether it's the computer room upstairs or the wood shop down at Clubhouse 4, when they ask you to do something, to just please follow their directions. Thank you.
Okay. Next one is landscaping, Director Skillman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We only meet quarterly, so our last meeting was in December, and I reported on that last month. So what I'd like to do is talk about our next meeting, which is going to be tomorrow, February 8th at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. And some of the things that we're going to be looking at and have reports and slides and pictures on are our key performance indicators for landscape. And so people who want to know what we're doing and what we're planning on doing, that's what you're going to see. We're also going to have an Aliso Creek update. Our creek people always want to know what's going on, and certainly with the weather and the rains and everything that we've had, there have been some changes down there, some work that needed to be done and has been done. And so come and see. We've got slides again that will show you what's happening down there. And last but not least, we are going to get a report on the storm damage, because we did have some storm damage. We had a couple of trees. We had 5 trees go down, and a lot of branches and cleanup, and there was some flooding around the creek area, et cetera. So if you're interested in how we managed all of that, please come to the meeting tomorrow. And the other thing we're emphasizing is that we have policies and procedures that cover what happens in rain events, et cetera. And a lot of people think it's just off the cuff. It's not. We plan, we know what to do, and we're going to go over that again tomorrow as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So next item is maintenance and construction, and I actually directed that meeting for February 2nd. And it was actually a special closed meeting, but and the reason it was closed is because we were discussing contracts, and I can't reveal any of the information at this point in time, but I will say that at our closed meetings, we will further discuss what was recommended by the M&C committee, okay? So the next,
we canceled the meeting for the February 5th because of the special meeting. The next meeting is April 12th.
Okay.
April.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But still, if anything it comes up, we can hold a special meeting for MNC to address those issues.
And so the next one would be a report of media and communications. Wait a minute. Okay. Egon, are you here? Okay, so the next one would be the Clubhouse Renovation Ad Hoc Committee.
The committee last met on January the 24th. We discussed 2 items. We discussed
I can't hear you.
Okay, hold on.
Turn his volume on.
Okay, is this better?
No.
No, we can't hear you.
Okay, turn up your volume.
Adjust your volume on your computer.
Very strange because I can hear feedback of my own voice in the computer.
You just sound like you're in a closet, you know, it's like you sound like you're really far away from the audio.
Well, I'm not. I'm speaking into this. Is that any better?
Nope. Too bad.
Hello?
Okay.
Hello?
Can you speak into your, speaker into your computer speaker?
Can you not? Well, I'm talking into the earphone, which is the direct microphone. Can you not hear that?
Yeah, it's not coming through. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you very clearly.
Oh, okay.
Just talk louder.
Just talk loud.
Look,
Yell.
I'll update you. I'll update you at the closed meeting, which I'll be there in person. Okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so the next item is the report of EV chargers special open meeting, and that's Director Creamy.
Well, that has been reported in the past and should be removed
Okay,
for the
so we'll
future,
just-
unless, as Director Dotson says, there are other issue comes up with the EV charging, then we'll take it on. But at this time, we're going to remove it until further notice.
Okay, thank you. So the next item would report of the Media and Communications Committee, Director Millman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Media and Communications Committee met Monday, January 16th, 1:30 p.m. And Ms. Poland reported on media and communications. The many things that they do include things like what's up in the village, the email blast analytics, website analytics and visitor demographics, focus group results overview, decreasing premium movie channel subscriptions, everybody's going to streaming, increasing programming costs, contracts that expire in 2023, media services 55, that's the sales, internet service, and the 2023 key initiatives. There was a report from the Broadband Ad Hoc Committee report, and I'll go into that in a moment. And there was also a report from the Website Committee from Eileen Pollan. Paul Ortiz reported on the Broadband Services report. One thing we noticed, of course, that you can always get their programs on Village Television's YouTube channel. And I want to remind everybody that Debbie Dotson's program, Let's Talk Tech, is covering some important things for the village. Internet speeds was the most recent report, and the March show is going to discuss what constitutes streaming with a demonstration on the studio television. The program airs Tuesdays at 2 p.m. on TV6 and Fridays at 10:30 a.m. And you can always get her programs on Village Television's YouTube channel. Mr. Ortiz gave a history of the fiber system installed in 1999 at the Video Club meeting on January 19th. And I hope many of you were able to attend that. It was very, very interesting. And that's the end of the Media and Communications report. The website committee, ad hoc committee, met January 31st, 2023, where we continue to evaluate the three proposals that have come for the website. The next meeting of that website committee is February 8th, and these are closed committees. We're working on evaluations of the website proposals. The Broadband Ad Hoc Committee met January 24th, 2023, where the first scenario solution for broadband was presented. That first scenario is what happens if we do nothing. There will be 2 more presentations in the future meetings. And that's the end of my reports.
Okay. The next item is report of the Mobility and Vehicles Committee, Director Tibbetts, and then if he would just move on and also do the Security and Community Access Committee.
Okay, thank you, Madam President. As you know, we have 3 basic programs in mobility, the fixed route, the journey program, and the boost program. And comparing 2021 with the year of 2022, we've gone up about 13%, and which is a good sign. I'm also happy to report that a very popular program, the designation program, we're planning to start that again in March, and there'll be more information coming out as soon as staff has it. In the area of vehicles, it was reported that we have 27 vehicles purchased out of 33. We're still waiting on microchips and a few other parts. Then we discussed the purchase of some needed vehicles, and we approved 5 of them. We recommended 5 of them to GRF, and we tabled 2 purchases, which will be discussed at another meeting within a couple of weeks, and hopefully that they will be approved at that time and purchased. And our next regular meeting is scheduled for April 5th at 1:30. In our Security and Community Access Committee, our next meeting is February 27th at 1:30. And I would like to mention that Gate 12, access, will be the major item on that agenda. And as you heard now this morning, there was some concern. And the reason that there's a backup over there, because we had some non-residents, a lot of non-residents enjoy our facilities. And they go in and use our bar, it's illegal. And we could lose our liquor license and close the bar, and that would upset a lot of people. So that was the reason for that. We are going to discuss all of this in detail at our meeting on February 27th. And that's the end of my reports.
Thank you. I'm going to sneeze again. I'm sorry.
Madam Chair?
All right.
Madam Chair? Yep. Bless you.
Okay, so the next item.
Madam Chair?
Okay.
May I ask a question to
Yes,
Mr.
please.
Tibbetts? So is it your thought that the backup at Gate 12 is relatively temporary because of the enforcement of the non-resident policy?
Oh, we definitely had to do it because we're checking IDs individually, and instead of just waving them in, holding up a card, it's more detailed checking.
So it's not a new policy, it was
No, that's why I said enforcement of.
right.
Enforcement is new.
Oh, excuse me. And I'll add to that, because both Dawn and I have been talking to Carlos, Rojas, who's monitoring that every day. And what we found is that we have advised so many of the residents to be sure and now use their card, that they are more prepared, and so the flow is much better But there is going to be recommendations at this meeting as to what we can do to improve that flow. So, okay. All right, so the next one is Laguna Woods Village traffic hearings, Director Addington.
I was going to say, I know you guys have been waiting a long time to hear this
Yes,
report.
yes,
It's the
we've
high
been
spot
waiting.
of your month, I know. I like it. On January 18th, oh, and I would like to correct one thing before I forget. On this agenda, it says the meeting is in person, but in the reports section, Joan, it says it's virtual, and it's not virtual. I'm sorry, or staff. Okay, if you look at the meetings, item 14H1, it says virtual meeting. And I mean, it's no big deal, but that's not correct. It's an in-person. Yeah, thanks. So, I mean, you're welcome. So, anyway, we had 4 happy campers show up, and this month, one was an expired vehicle registration, one was no Virginia, you can't park on the grass, and you can't park in the red, and you can't park by a fire hydrant, all in one violation. I thought that was pretty, we got our money's worth on that one. And then a failure to stop at the stop sign, an old favorite. But then here's one that was kind of interesting. It sounds scary because the code is RV lot miscellaneous major. Sounds kind of exciting. And what that was in the RV lot, you can't have camper shells unless they're attached to a truck. All of you out there in TV land, okay, that's pretty simple, right? Mm-hmm. But there was quite a bit of discussion about how it ought to be allowed to be on, they have these braces, but they're not. So all 4 of these people were found guilty with fines. Oh, and I'd like to discount the rumor that's going around that all you have to do is show up to traffic court and we'll blow off the violation and blow off the fine. Au contraire, I mean, you're welcome to come and give it a shot, because sometimes we do. We reduce, it depends on circumstances, and we might reduce the fine, or we might, there's different ways we deal with it, but it's certainly not a slam dunk, go there and get out of jail free card, as it were. So anyway, the next one's going to be on February 15th at 2023 at 9 o'clock in the morning. And that's all. Thank you.
Can I add? I want to add to what Elsie just said. Particularly when you run the stop sign or you have a moving violation, because we have it on video. So you're welcome to come in person and challenge, but video speaks for itself.
Thank you.
Yeah, but on that, a lot of people, not a lot, I'd say probably close to 50%, they really think they almost came to a stop. And I like that, because that's just such a huge education and we've all been there. I really thought I came to a complete stop. Some of them are just, well, it was almost, one lady this last time was just, well, there wasn't anybody coming. And that was her only defense, was there was nobody coming and she shouldn't get a ticket. But the ones that say, oh my God, I didn't come to a stop, those are very educational. Thank you for bringing that up, Ms. Dodson.
All right, so the next is the Disaster Preparedness Task Force, Director Skillman. I didn't hear.
Compliance ad hoc is your next committee. Your report, I think.
Oh, tried to skip that. I'm sorry. Basically, we're going to be meeting, and I'm not sure the date. I think it's around February 17th, but check your governance calendar to check and make sure. And we will be reviewing some of the documents. Our first meeting in January with the ad hoc, with staff, we gave them quite a bit of work to do in regards to updating are policies that need to be updated, which actually impact all the boards. It just doesn't just impact GRF. So I talked to them because my thinking is that GRF ad hoc committees should all meet once a month, because we're temporary committees. We have a definite task to do, and if we meet every other month on some of these ad hoc committees, we'll never get anything done. So there was a little bit of mix-up with compliance because they thought we were only going to meet every 2 months, but we've got that worked out. And so the next meeting is in February. Okay, so the next one is Director Skillman.
Thank you. The Disaster Preparedness Task Force met on January 31st. Normally, the Disaster Preparedness Task Force meets the fourth Tuesday of the month. A couple of times during the year, and happened to be during January, there were 5 Tuesdays. So there was a little mix-up with people. The radio drill was done the week before on the 4th Tuesday, and the meeting was held on the 5th Tuesday, which was January 31st. And people were saying, wait, it's the wrong date. But that's the whole thing. It's usually the 4th Tuesday of the month. Now, we also had a coordinators meeting yesterday with the clubhouse coordinators and with Ed Green, who is our new fearless leader. And he's talking about getting out and communicating with the rest of the village. And he wants to speak at clubs and have some of our task force members speak at clubs. So he's asking any of the clubs that would like to give 15, 20 minutes of their meeting to contact him, and we will arrange for somebody from the task force to be there to talk about the task force and what's needed. We're still looking for more neighborhood building captains. We have a pretty good grip on the clubhouse coordinators, but we also know that if there is a disaster, in most cases, we don't want everybody leaving their home physically and going to a clubhouse. If you're okay, you shelter in place. And we have guidelines for that, which we're more than happy to share with everybody. But it doesn't make sense for 13,000 some people to head for a clubhouse. There are reasons why they would go to the clubhouses, and the clubhouses have definite functions, but that's what we're trying to clear up. We're going to have some spots on TV6. The Orange County Fire Department has some good videos that we hope to use. And the next meeting will be this coming in February the 28th. And that's my report.
So, Juanita, I remember some time ago there was the disaster plan was somewhere on the website that you could...
Yes.
Okay.
The disaster plan that we paid good money for, and it was developed just for our community 5 years ago, 4.5, 5 years ago, under Tim Moy, is on the website. And all we're doing is trying to reconcile our program with the state program, CLEP. And we're working again with the city manager, and Annie is also used to be on is still on our task force, and she's not in the village anymore, but she's on the city council. So we're working with her because we are such a large part of the village, of the city. So we need to make sure that everything is meshed, our plans go. But we're also looking at what are the plans for Laguna Hills, Aliso Viejo, even Irvine, because when disasters happen, it's not just in one little part. We all watch TV, and we know the horrible things that are happening in Turkey, Syria right now with huge earthquakes. Those could happen. We need to be prepared for them. We see things like the football player whose life was saved on the field because of CPR and AEDs. And so we want to make sure that we have people trained on those. Some of those things have kind of slipped because of the pandemic, and we didn't get people together, but those are back up again. We're going to have the Red Cross classes, first aid, CPR, those kinds of things. And it's important that we have people here in the community that can do those kinds of things.
Okay, thank you. So the next is the Purchasing Ad Hoc Committee, and Dan and I have a meeting on Thursday to go over the agenda, and we will schedule a meeting for this next month, so thank you. So the next, doesn't look like we have any future agenda items. So the next would be director comments. And do we want to go start around the room? Do you have, Juanita, do you want to start?
I think I've said enough this morning.
Okay, thank you. All right.
I just want to remind everybody to be kind. Thank you.
Okay.
I just want to wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day, even though it's kind of an artificial holiday. The idea is really nice. Oh, and Ms. Dotson epitomizes the season.
So Elsie, I think you have an announcement too. Your newsletter is going to come out when? Okay.
Oh, well, it's the board's newsletter, but yeah, GRF, in its never-ending attempt, to process, to communicate as widely as possible, with our residents and all of our stakeholders, staff. Anyway, our first newsletter is our email blast. It's going to come out very soon.
After the board, I think next week, right?
I think it's coming out the beginning of next week, I
Right.
believe. But it's our first one, so it's like, you never know when the first baby's going to be born, right? So anyway, yep, that's just an announcement. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Nothing more? I just want to make one comment. And I hope the audience hears me. It's really, really important especially for the mutuals and the directors to understand the trust and to read the trust. It doesn't seem like that they really understand how the allocation comes for the money that we operate and how important GRF is. GRF is the face of this community. We are rated always at least the top 10 of 55-plus communities to live in, and many times it is number 1 and number 2, depending upon the year. So what GRF does is very, very important, and we are also required by David Sterling, not only our trust, but David Sterling, we are required to maintain these facilities. And so I just want to point that out because the education of the trust and how the money is allocated and all of these things is very important for them to have that information. So thank you. You? I'm done with my preaching.
I was asleep at the switch, whatever. Yes, there'll be an article coming out in the Breeze very soon about the trust and how GRF works with the governance of the village. Just for everybody, we always need to review anything with governance almost every year, and so this is the annual article that's coming out.
Thank you.
And good meeting, thank you.
All right.
I have
Don?
nothing to add.
Okay. No comments? Okay.
I got one thing
All
based
right.
on what you said.
Okay.
There is a video online that was made during a training about the trust. So anybody, it's open to any resident as well. We're complicated. There's a complicated set of bylaws and trust and all these different things and corporate code and all things. So we don't expect every resident to know those, but we do expect that directors on different mutuals should be knowledgeable of those things. And we do hold annual training to that effect.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So at this point in time, there's no other comments. We will recess and continue to our closed meeting. So thank you.
What time do you want? Because Egon's coming to the
Okay,
close.
what time is it? It's
12:04.
12:30? 12:30 is good. Yes. Thank you.